Hello, today is the centenary of the birth of James Baldwin, who grew up in poverty in America but spent most of his life in Paris. He left the States because of the way in which he felt diminished by the prejudice against black people, and most of his writing is a reflection on prejudice, on racial discrimination, on civil rights, and he writes about the experience of being a victim of discrimination, but also about why he thinks it happens. He talks in pretty drastic terms. He said, "I never had a childhood. I did not have any human identity. I was born dead." And what he's trying to communicate here, I think, is that in a society dominated by white people, black people don't really have an identity of their own, because white people want them to conform to their way of being. He says to become truly human, this is the attitude of white people, to become truly human and acceptable, black people must first become like us. This assumption once accepted, the Negro in America can only acquiesce in the obliteration of his own personality. That was his view, that the black identity could be stamped out because of the power of the white community in just wanting everybody to be like them. And he writes about the fact that this is not saying much about the black person's psyche. It's much more indicative of what's going on inside the white person. He writes in one of a famous letter that he publishes, a letter to his nephew, he says, "Please try to remember that what they believe, white people believe, does not testify to your humanity, but to their inhumanity and fear." In other words, white people's hostility to black people, or indeed I think you might say to anyone who's different from them, comes out of the threat that difference poses. I haven't read a great deal of James Baldwin, but he was very influential in bringing to the fore the black experience and helping white people to understand what lies behind it, and challenging us to look at what makes us behave like that, and to confront that inhumanity and fear which he describes inside us by really dealing with it ourselves, not by projecting it out and turning it on other people who happen to be different. And I think this is a brilliant analysis of racism, but I think also it's a lesson in so many other areas of life, that when we find something difficult, when we find somebody awkward, when we find somebody who upsets us and irritates us, it's quite likely to be not because of who they are, but because of what's going on inside us. And we need to examine our own selves before we give in to dislike, to prejudice, based probably on our own, as he calls it, inhumanity and fear. And so today, if I notice prejudice in myself or hostility to anybody, I think it's important, just first of all, to try and work out where that's coming from inside me, what it is about this person and their difference from me that makes me hostile to them. And that way I think we can do what for James Baldwin was the ultimate way of growth, to learn to love. And for him, loving was not just about an individual loving of other people, but a love that spread its way through institutions and through cultures, as he longed for a society where white people and black people could live alongside each other in a complete mutual acceptance.